Welcome to the Meridian Pursuit Builders podcast. I'm your host, Jamey Sampley, and today it's personal. I'm chatting with my dad, Jamey Sampley, a spec and custom home builder for over 50 years. From Arizona to Kentucky, he learned the craft from my grandfather, a one-horse builder who did it all. Whether it was a spec or a custom home, build for permanence. This is the blueprint for building a home that lasts and a name that stands. Let's get into it.
I am Jamey Sampley, and I'm a local home builder, and I've been doing this home building work starting with just construction work right out of high school. So that's hard to believe, but it's almost like 50 years ago that I just started.
Did you have like a defined moment of like this happened, I met this person, and then everything changed?
So right out of high school, I went out to Phoenix, Arizona and lived there for a while and did some carpentry help, some construction. Actually, it was a homeowner who had hired me just to work for a while. And I didn't know at the time that it would turn into a career for me. But I ended up coming back to Kentucky and met what I thought was an elderly man at the time. I think he was in his early 40s. And he offered me a job. And he just kind of was a what we call a one-horse builder. He just worked by himself mostly and just would hire people as he needed them for labor. And he asked me if I wanted to have that job. And I said, yeah, sure. I'd like to come and help you. And that really became the start of my career, because I very much like working outside and working with my hands. And it seems like everything he had to teach me, I just absorbed it like a sponge. And what was so great about him was he would start from just the bare lot and put in the foundation himself, and we would lay the blocks. He taught me how to lay blocks, how to level out concrete footers, and do the framing, and just basically just take the house all the way through to completion, to lock and key.
Would he hire a lot of subcontractors, or did he do a lot of the work himself?
Most of the work, I would say by far the majority, he did himself. And so that way I got to learn so many different facets of home building: the masonry, the carpentry part of it, tile laying, painting, cabinet building, just lots and lots of different aspects of the construction project.
Do you think that really helped, having your hand in every single section of the build to know this is exactly what I'm looking for?
What to look for, yes. A whole lot in my business, especially working here local, is if I'm doing a custom building home, you want quality work, you want it to be affordable. And so a lot back in the early days, when you don't have a contractor that you use all the time, you have to check out somebody's reputation and go look at their work. And so we did that, because sometimes, like a bricklayer, for instance, he may be the best in the world, but it may be time for him to retire. And so then you have to restart the process. And so it is with a plumber or an electrician. But it's always a good thing when you can find a subcontractor and you can stay with them. And that always makes the job, because you know what to expect. It's not like using a new person each time.
Have you always done custom home building, or has it been spec homes, rental homes?
Well, we did for many, many years, we did custom homes, and then I got into custom spec building. I would draw the plans out myself and would do unique features in the house, whether it was fireplace or wood floors or a brick house versus a vinyl siding house, basement or non-basement. So lots of different factors, but I enjoyed the spec building, and so I did that for several years also.
So you kind of had this like the most unique spec home, because you were bringing the custom side of it to the spec home, and you were giving people a different option than like a cookie cutter spec home.
Right.
They would see things in there that they normally wouldn't see, because you're bringing your custom home building expertise into that project.
Yeah, exactly. And And when you go to sell a home, those are the things that really stand out is, little added custom features, ceramic tile over top of maybe the shower unit, the fiberglass shower unit, or something different, granite type of diversity in the kitchen and in bathrooms. And I remember several of the houses that I built, my customers would come in. Most of the time, I just end up selling my own homes because people would come and look at the house, and I would kind of give them a tour, and I knew everything about the house. And they were always impressed with, oh, you real granite in all the bathrooms, and of course the kitchen and things like that. And I just always felt like that in the area of home building, I think it's reasonable to say that it's the greatest investment that a family is going to make. I mean, it may be $2, $3, $4, $500,000, a huge investment, and and most of the times being paid for over many, many, many years. And I just would always think this house should be built with the utmost thought of permanence and no cutting corners and just making every brick count. And because it just made you feel like you were accomplishing something greater when you could build something and you didn't have people calling you back. They were happy with your product. And since I do live in a small town, you're all the time meeting the people that you built for. And that's a very, very good, gratifying feeling.
Did you ever get any callbacks?
Yes, I'm sure I did. Maybe some small things, but I'm trying to think if there was any really major things. One time there was the owner's pet had busted a water line off during work hours, and so the water was free flowing in the house. It had a basement in it, so it all ended up in the basement, saturating the floor, the ceiling being brought down, and of course the homeowner was just sick over it. But he had insurance, homeowner insurance, and he came to me to do the repair and to fix it. Fixed it right back. Actually, with me and my sons, we just fixed it right back to how we put it in from the very beginning.
Some people do something very specific for their client when they're building them a home. Sometimes it's if it's a faith-based company, sometimes it's burying a Bible in the concrete, foundation, writing scriptures on the studs. Did you ever do anything like that for, some people do like a groundbreaking ceremony, photo op. Is there anything that you've done?
There was a certain practice whenever I was building a custom home for somebody. We would meet out on the lot, and before we even did any work at all, I asked if it'd be okay if we prayed over the whole project. And of course, they were thrilled to enter into an agreement like that. And so we just committed the whole project to God and for safety throughout the project. Construction can be dangerous, but through all these decades that I have worked on houses, I mean, there's just been very, very little mishaps or accidents. It's been a wonderful career for me. I know several times people have said, "Oh, are you going to retire, or when you're going to retire?" And I jokingly have said, I just feel like I've always been in like a retirement stage because I could work when I wanted to. Yeah. I've always felt like I've kind of been in a retirement stage, being a sole proprietor, self-employed. I could work when it was convenient for me. I could work around the weather. Here in Kentucky, we don't have as harsh as winters like they have up north, but it's something you want to keep in mind and make a hard job as easy as you can. I heard one builder is very well known in our area, and he said,
"How many years have you been building homes?"
Well, just since I've been on my own, I'm going to say, I first started construction when I was just, 16, and then 17, 18 got out of high school. and basically had to learn the trade for a few years. But I had a very high confidence level. And my employer, who ended up becoming my father-in-law because he had a daughter that I did not know at the time, but it was a win-win situation. And so I married his daughter, and we worked with each other for 15 years, actually, until he gave it up and retired. And and I guess it was then that I started thinking, now that I'm by myself, how's this construction going to look? How's my home building going to look? I'm going to have to either hire people or rely on some other subs. And so I'm going to say that, at least 30 years have I been building homes.
How many homes do you build a year?
Now I'm 66, and I may build just one house, one custom home now. We never were big builders because it was mostly just me and my father-in-law. But at one time we may have had 4 houses going on. That would have been a busy year because some of these homes we were building would take as much as 6 months, and we didn't like to spread ourselves out too thin. We were just a small custom builder, and so we could manage it all better.
Like, how did people hear about you guys?
Well, because we are in a pretty tight-knit community, and we worked in 2 counties, Hardin County and LaRue County, the cities of Hodgenville and Elizabethtown, and pretty much for us, we never had cards, never had business. It was always word of mouth. And when you're on a project for 6 months, that gives people a lot of time who are considering building a home to start asking a lot of questions of who can I get to be a builder? And usually they'll call supply companies or maybe realtors, and they'll start trying to find, they will narrow their search by trying to find a builder that has a good reputation.
So, you have to do right by your clients. You have to do right by your subcontractors. You have to do right by your banks. You have to be able to build homes for 30 years, you kind of have to protect that reputation at all costs, which means even if you could make an extra buck here or there, you're not going to sacrifice that because you know what it ultimately means, which is your reputation.
Right.
That is the lead generator for yourself, is people saying good about you and your company.
Having a good name, and the scripture says in Proverbs that your reputation is better than riches. And I built a house for a client of mine, and you hear a lot of traumatic building stories, a whole lot. And most people are discouraged from entering into building their own home or entering with a builder that they don't know. And this certain customer of mine, after the project was done, and we had multiple problems on the job, mostly with subcontractors, but he was asked by one of his coworkers, he said, "So would you build another house?" And he said, "Not without Jamey Sampley, I wouldn't." And we just literally worked out every problem that came up. Never, there were some overrides. They wanted some extra cost that they wanted to make some changes, but everything was always up front. Every little change was calculated out, and so everybody was good with it. And it ended up being an interesting story. After I built his house, he came down with lymphoma cancer, and I was one of the first people that he called and said, I wish you would pray for me. Maybe going back to when we prayed at the start of his house. But he made it through it. And what makes it even more interesting is a year or 2 after that, I came down with lymphoma cancer. And he was one of the first people that I called and said, can you kind of be an emotional support for me to help me through this? I had tons of questions to ask him about chemo and one thing or another. But thanks be to God, I also am on the backside of it.
The relationships, when you spend such a concentrated amount of time with someone and as intimate as building their home, I'm sure that relationship never dies. It's
Right.
a bond that is just so strong.
I'll see people in Walmart and, just decades that's gone by. And a lot of people I go to church with, I've built their homes and have even invited them to church after I built the home, and they're still coming. And so, yeah, I mean, exactly what you said. You hear a lot of taglines, so-and-so building company, the relationship builder. And I think it's true, because you do have to have a good relationship with the people. And it's just the right thing to do anyway, no matter what kind of business that you're into. But I think especially in the area of building homes, it's like, this is somebody's home that they're going to be paying for 30 years. And they really want it done right. And I just feel an obligation to that and like a responsibility. But it's a good responsibility.
And what a better way to set the foundation so strong with the client beforehand, so that if you do run into issues, which some are going to be inevitable, your floorings may be out of stock and you're going to have to find a different type of flooring.
Yeah.
But to have such a strong foundation with that client to begin with, and really develop that relationship, so that if there are issues that do come up, those are easier to work through, because there's already a trust there, that they're not trying
Definitely.
to pull the wool over me or anything like that, but they are my guide through this process, to see that they know what I want and they know the budget, and they are trying to do everything that they can to work through any of those hurdles, and really my advocate through all of those issues.
Very true. Very, very true. You're dealing with, like I said, tens of thousands of dollars, when you make a draw, and it gets into hundreds of thousands of dollars. And there again, you just hear of builders running off with people's money. As a matter of fact, just the other day, it was a local doctor in town here. I was giving him some advice, and I didn't know what had happened, but the building inspector had said he paid for this whole house up front. It was a secondary home. It wasn't a big primary home, but it's still, the builder wanted all the money up front, and he took the money and left. Oh my goodness, I just can't believe it. And so, communication, you're dealing with people's money, and they don't want to see you make a big draw and then not see you at the job. No progress is going on. I have always felt like that it was incumbent upon me to keep my client informed. If I'm going on a mission trip, or, hey, I'm going to be leaving here, but I try to coordinate the work to where something is always going on, because they're borrowing money.
Would you do the cost of the build plus a percentage, or would you just agree on this is the cost of the home, and then each draw would?
I have heard of different ways. The one you just mentioned there, like a cost plus a percentage, but I don't think I ever did that. I think I just gave one price. Price.
What advice would you give to new home builders as far as keeping their integrity and, not always looking at the dollar that comes in, but really protecting the reputation and letting their best work be done in a closet, even though no one sees it? But that kind of mentality,
right. That's true.
Your reputation will outlive your bank account.
Right. Always keep in mind that this is the biggest investment these people are going to spend. There is no justification for cutting corners, no justification for compromising on things that are foundational to the job. If you're a young builder, seek advice. Go to some older builders if you have questions. we're all still learning, and it's it is a great industry. It is very gratifying to just come out on a vacant lot, and then a few months later, you see this $500,000 home, or maybe even more, maybe less. But it's just something that you have been a part of. And if you're just doing spec building, then you don't have your customer that's involved in it, and so it's really just you yourself. But someone's going to buy that home, and your reputation is going to be on the line. And so even with that, I think it's really important to seek the advice, get good subcontractors, and just stay fair, stay competitive.
So I was told a long time ago that if you're not growing, then you're shrinking, and there is no
Oh,
middle ground, there is no plateau. How important is the continued education, the continuing of asking people for advice and kind of pouring it, or surrounding yourself around people that your mentors, they could be builders or designers, but always kind of staying on the cutting edge.
I think it's very important because there are changes that are made in materials and products, and it's so much better to do your research and to find out that, like, I just had a tub shower put in on this house, and the tile layer was telling me about some new products that he will be using on this house. And I was very curious, and sure enough, I looked at him, I thought, wow, this is stronger, it's lighter, it's less expensive. It just worked out great. Some self-leveling devices that he had bought that I had never seen before. But yes, I would, if I was a young builder and was starting out, I would find out what products are the best, what's going to last the longest.
Also sounds like maybe if you get really good subcontractors, they could also help guide that too. If your shower guy is in this every single day, he's going to know much more about shower specifically, that you can glean that info and pass that along to your client, even if it is on an interest level, for that customer to say, hey, you didn't know this, but we're doing X, Y, and Z in your shower, and you're going to get these benefits. And
Right. Right.
that never even came up, but you're making the decision now that the client will see that reward, maybe not for another 30 years, but just having good open communication, and letting your customer know that I am here for you at every step of the way. And if I see there's a way to make any sort of an improvement or anything that we can, we will absolutely do that. But it sounds like for the young builder, a good subcontractor could really,
Oh,
be a
yeah.
game changer.
Because a builder can earn a good reputation, a builder can also gain a bad reputation.
I'm sure
And
there's none of those
yeah,
out there.
and it spreads. It spreads. All these years that I've been working, people's name will come up. They'll either be honored or they'll be dishonored. Even the even the Bible says that when a house is built, it is not the house that receives the praise. It's the person who built the house. It is the builder that, oh, that's a Jamey Sampley home. And that means a whole lot versus someone just said, oh, just some company from out of town came in and they just threw this thing up as fast as they could. And I hear those stories and have heard them through, for years and years. And it's sad and it's disheartening, and it makes me feel for the homeowner.
Yeah. And they may not even realize it until years
Right.
into after they've
Right.
already
Until
purchased the
right.
home. A lot of people nowadays look for social proof. Someone that's got such a big investment, like finding a builder for their home. They look for social proof to say, what is the reputation of these builders? And especially people like where I live in Florida, there are so many new people that come to the state that it is not a small community. They don't have it would take them a long time to really get a good feel of, hey, is this person great? I see 10 really great people. How do I choose? So what we do on a marketing side is we try to, there's such amazing home builders that we try to translate that and showcase that to people. And, we use video, we use, high converting websites so that people are actually able to rank. And it's not just the biggest builders that are able to, force their way to the very top of the page, but really give these people an opportunity, these amazing home builders, to showcase their work and to showcase their values and the care, and not really fall too far below all of these other rankings. So there's a lot of, there's a respect that we have for these people, and we want to uplift those people. And unfortunately, people have outdated sites and they don't have any good photo content, and we don't know their stories. And, so much of this industry relies on word of mouth, and some people, that is all that they have built their reputation on.
Yeah.
But as some of these builders, as they pass into, maybe the second or third generation, they're handing their business over to their sons or their daughters. There is this disconnect of, well, I knew Bob over here, and Bob was great, but Bob's now 70 years old, and his son Johnny is taking it over. And
Yeah.
the younger person that's looking for Johnny to build their home is going to look at things as simple as, Google reviews, and, what is their story, and what do they care about, and, what is their essence, and is it the same as, their dad or their granddad? So there's no better way to do that than to showcase that kind of stuff, and then to let it match. So when people look up your company online, and then they give you a call or they meet you in person, there's not a disconnect. And it's not, hey, you were presenting yourself a certain way online, and then when I came and met you, it was a totally different experience. But rather reinforce it so that when they do go and meet you, they already have all of this knowledge and trust that actually helps that process if they decide to choose that builder.
Yeah.
So really can be such a valuable thing.
Very, I really appreciate the, kind of like the video driven age that we live in, because you can, people that are coming in from out of town, well, what do they know about it? But reviews and testimonials and, people references that they can call. I mean, well, I don't care if it's a home builder or a doctor or a mechanic. Seems like so much now is driven by what the reviews are. What hotel am I going to stay in, or what restaurant is going to be good? And I especially see it with my kids is, hey, we want to go to a good place to eat. We just look that up. Well, how much more important if you're going to build a home, you're going to build a house for somebody. It's like, hey, I'm coming into an area. My job has relocated me, and I'm going to want a home. And where do I start? Well, you just do your research, and you start looking for builders that are reputable and that have testimonials and references and the reviews. And then it becomes a win-win.
It does. And it saves a lot of time. It builds a lot of trust, and they get so much more out of it, because I've got a roofing client, and he's the best guy in the world, but he is not a big communicator. And unless you get him talking and you spend hours and hours and hours with him, you don't get these really great stories from that person. So you also can have just a personality difference, to where you may spend 30 minutes or an hour with someone to see, hey, is this person a good fit to build my home? And if that person's personality is just a little bit more on the introverted side, then they're going to have a totally different experience, versus if they have 3 months of seeing videos and testimonials and other people talking about this person. Then you come into that meeting with a totally different mindset than trying to make all of your assumptions and opinions of this person within such a short amount of time. And that's kind of the power of video and good stories, and presenting it in a way that people are actually able to see when they Google and when they ChatGPT answers, and even the this new AI age is, a lot of good people are being demoted because they don't have good websites. They don't have a good online presence. So, they're ending up on 3 and 4th page of Google, and all of your major home building companies are all ranking at number 1 by design. And all of these amazing people are just lost off the face of the earth. And it's, it's a real shame. And that's what, something that we, are so passionate about is, hey, let's bring you up to speed. Let's give you a really good foundation on all of those things so that we can at least be on the same level playing field, so that people are able to get good answers when they're trying to make especially such a good, huge decision like getting their home built.
Yeah. And what comes up first, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and it's like you said, some of the stuff can be buried so deep. But if you have somebody, I don't know how to run the media. I have to turn to you guys, and the younger generation can actually see that, hey, this is the way that we can get your name out there. Oh, Dad, being one of the first builders here, and with a good bio, and with some of this good information, and we can facilitate all that, which I think is great. That's that's what it's all going to. I mean, we all are looking for reviews, and we don't want to dig and dig and dig, for days and days. We want to be able to feel confident.
Yeah, and that's another core piece of what we're building here is, we're also bringing like handshake level trust to this industry that's very digital. It's a lot of overseas people, over promising and under delivering. But, we have this mentality of like, hey, if I shake your hand and I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And we're not bound by contracts and agreements or any of that kind of stuff. We're going to do right by you. We're going to set a goal, and we're going to attack that goal together. And, we're going to become your partner as we try to accomplish that certain goal, and not just really build a long-term relationship with these people that will last. And many of our clients have been with us for, 5 and 6 years. And we want more of that. We don't want just one-off projects, but really build something that has got a sustainability to it that just gets stronger and stronger over time. Okay, as we wrap up, are there any other people that you admire, either in this community? They could be home builders, they could be designers, they could be, people that have just kind of over your years have really motivated you to be really in any aspect.
Yeah, that is a good question. I mean, I've just literally worked with hundreds of people in this industry, and it's so good to meet them out on the street. It's so good to have a working relationship with them. Other builders like myself, most of the time there's even networking of builders that meet together and talk about projects and products and things like that. Home building associations, things like that. But I have enjoyed that. I have never felt like I have been in competition with anybody. It seems like there's always been enough work to go around. Once again, it's just so important to have integrity and let your reputation precede you. And you don't ever have to worry about meeting one of your ex-clients on the street and think, oh my goodness, we've just never had that. We have always done whatever it takes to make things right. It's your home, and it's personal, and I guess that's my advice.
All right, that's a wrap for this conversation. If you know someone who should be on this podcast, send us an email at info@meridianpursuit.com and nominate them. We're always looking for great stories to share. And if you got something out of this episode, please leave us a quick review on the show. And if you're watching on YouTube, tap like and subscribe so we can share this with more people. I'm Jamey Sampley. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you on the next one.